Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Equity and Energy, man. Super excited today. We have our guest, Steven Fance. Steven's with Cultiv8 Hemp Solutions. He was also one of our inaugural members, man, in our cohort 1. And I really just wanted to get the opportunity to have him come in and kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that he's doing with hemp and some of the plans they had for Louisiana. So without further ado, man, let's welcome Steven Fance. Steven, how you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. So can you tell me a little bit about your background, man?
Yes. So Steven Fance, of course, Cultiv8 Hemp Solutions. We started about 70 years ago. And my background, I studied mathematics at Morehouse College here in Atlanta, Georgia. And in Morehouse, I was hired by Lockheed Martin to help build their military airplanes. And from there, I stayed there roughly about 7 years and ended up starting my own consulting firm, which we provided and continue to cloud architecture, AI, machine learning, software architecture. And one of our earlier contracts, we provided for fleet vehicles across the country. And I installed Internet of Things sensors. And from there, moved into hemp maybe around 2017, learned about it uh, just from research and learned that hemp has over 50,000 byproducts.
Wow.
And, I ended up moving to and traveling to California and the West Coast and Colorado, meeting with farmers and really learning about the history, meeting with dispensary and those who innovate with hemp products from clothing to plastics. So after that, we started in the plastic space with utensils, and then got into fuel maybe back almost 3 years. And we produced our first diesel product in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And so
Mhm.
now we have renewable natural gas and sustainable aviation fuel. So that's Cultivate in a nutshell.
So tell me a little bit how you got to how you got to Lake Charles, Louisiana. Tell me about the ties to Louisiana.
Yeah, so my business partner and wife, her family's from Lake Charles. Um,
Nice. You got
and so,
Louisiana woman.
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So, her family ties brought us to a relationship with a refiner. And, we educated him about how we can convert his old diesel producing asset into clean fuel from hemp.
Okay.
And so we were able to help retool it and produce diesel product from there.
Wow, man. So now you said a little bit about, and shout out to Morehouse College, man. We're doing a lot of work with the HBCUs down here. I think every time I get an opportunity to just shout out to the work that they're doing, all the innovation that's coming forth from our HBCUs right now as well. But you talking a little bit about majoring in mathematics at Morehouse. Um, Tell me a little bit about how Morehouse prepares you to kind of pioneer and trailblaze in this space.
Yeah, so Morehouse prepared me in that exposure to people from all types of backgrounds, from economic status, internationally, different religions, and it really allowed me to become a critical thinker,
Uh-huh.
uh, allowed me to learn about leadership, taking accountability,
Mm,
and um, also learning to surround myself with people that are smarter than me.
okay. And I think that, and even when you're coming from the HBU space, then you go into the Lockheed Martin space, right? Like some people may think that's a difficult transition. For some people, it may not be a difficult transition. But being able to take everything that you learn at Morehouse, and also with Lockheed Martin, what are some of the things, or what do you feel that they contribute to that leadership and innovation? What are some of the skills they gave you? You think that helps you be more innovative in the energy sector?
Yeah, so the great thing about Lockheed Martin I really liked is, for one, it's has a huge population of veterans, and
Okay.
so their experience in the field brought to um, me being an engineer and systems engineer at the time, also taught me about just being organized and
Hmm.
disciplined in that regard and communicating.
Hmm.
But it really allowed me to broaden my mind when it comes to building on a global level,
Uh-huh.
infrastructure wise, and what it takes to um, ideate
Hmm.
to production of a final product, and being able to not only produce it from numbers, but also seeing it in real life on a supply chain line and seeing a full plane. it really made me realize that, I'm being trained by the best to solve very big problems. So,
Yeah, man. I think that we have a little pyramid as we kind of work our way through the principles that we kind of follow. I think that first principle is exposure, being able to give students and people of color an opportunity to have those experiences with Lockheed Martin, and to be able to see that bigger plan and that bigger picture, um, and that being able to expand your thinking and your mind. So having had the opportunity to kind of expand your thinking, now you move into consulting, right? And kind of leveraging that information that you've learned. Um, but how does that lead into your consulting phase? Like, what are some of the things that you were doing in the consulting phase?
yeah, so my clients are typically Fortune 50 companies
Okay.
that are looking for, that usually have legacy applications that they acquired from mergers and acquisitions, and they need oftentimes upgrades when it comes to security, maybe new frameworks, automation, AI, machine learning is really big now, and it's really been for a while. But um, companies are always just looking for ways to save money and to provide more service to their customers. So that experience really prepared me to be able to approach large companies that are looking for clean energy products today.
Okay. And so during that time, you really were solving other people's problems at that time, not. And because I know when working in your own stuff, you're solving the problems for Cultiv8, but having a chance to work with as a consultant, also back with Lockheed Martin, so all those things kind of contribute to you becoming a better problem solver.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now we're up to Cultiv8, man. What motivated you to go after Cultiv8? What made you look at hemp in a different light?
You know, once being educated myself about, for one, where does our energy come from? When you turn the switch on in your room, the light bulb comes on, how does that happen? Learning that oftentimes our sources of energy come from burning coal or getting natural gas, and utilizing generators to produce electricity. But then you have to ask yourself, well, when you put gasoline in your car, diesel, or when you take that flight on an airplane to your, vacation,
Mhm.
where does that fuel come from? What price are we paying to get that fuel? What resources, um, who are we displacing, just so that we can have these privileges with energy? So when we talk about climate change and really understanding how we arrived here, uh, you know, we can talk about, clothing we wear. We can talk about the food we eat every day. But at the end of the day, everything requires energy. And the largest emitters of carbon dioxide and emissions in the atmosphere to cause climate change are oil, gas, and plastics, essentially. But the great thing is that there's a solution to it.
Okay. So you're saying hemp is that solution.
Absolutely.
Okay. So tell me, so how does that hemp derived renewable diesel compare in terms to the performance and efficiency of traditional fossil fuels?
Yeah. So for one, I want to break down the difference between renewable diesel and biodiesel.
Okay.
So historically, called uh, biofuel 1.0, in which the traditional sense is a seed is pressed and the oil is extracted, and a process called transesterification is utilized uh, to produce a fuel, basically heating up.
Okay.
Um, and so with the renewable diesel, um, what we call biofuel 2.0 is that it uses a different process where you can go from the biomass and gasification to Fischer-Tropsch, which is renewable diesel, which allows drop-in replacement. And biodiesel can only be blended. So with hemp, the great thing is that, um, especially with us, is that we're utilizing technologies that have been around for decades. But our expertise is being able to manipulate hemp so that it can be used with traditional oil and gas equipment.
Okay. So now the process you talked about converting hemp biomass into syngas and then diesel fuel.
Mm-hmm.
What are the environmental benefits of that, man?
So with hemp, most of the environmental benefits comes with the growth process, and this is why our philosophy is making sure that we take care of our farmers, because the
Okay.
farmers are experts when it comes to hemp and cultivation. But essentially, with the process, we call with photosynthesis is when a plant grows. Photosynthesis, it um, absorbs carbon dioxide as food, and it releases it, and it stores carbon dioxide and releases oxygen, essentially. So with hemp, during that 90-day process, it absorbs all of the carbon emissions, 1.25 metric tons per 1 ton of yield of hemp. And during that process, it absorbs it in 90 days and it's harvested by the farmers. And then we pick it up and process it and gasify it to a syngas. And syngas is very similar to essentially heating up the hemp into a gas, and we capture that gas
Okay.
and then we clean it up and then we process it utilizing Fischer-Tropsch to produce renewable diesel. So that's the full process.
And you said 1 ton. So in that, you said I think one. You said 1 cubic ton of hemp. We was talking about how much. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to figure out, based on you saying you need 1 ton of hemp. I'm trying to figure out how much farmland is that. Like, how big is your average farm when you're talking about producing the amount of hemp that you're using?
Yes, so the yield is for 1 acre. It can
Okay,
produce
perfect.
um, roughly anywhere between 4 to 8 tons.
Okay, all right. So our small farmers can actually play a role in this as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what are some of the key advantages, man, of hemp-based renewable aviation fuel over traditional jet fuel?
Compared to traditional jet fuel, uh, in the industry, what they also call it as sustainable aviation fuel or SAF, essentially it's a drop-in replacement. Uh, Except with ours, it's carbon negative
Okay.
because of the carbon emissions that the hemp plant absorbs during its growth process.
And then, and just, and if it's not, because I want to, just being transparent, I know I sent you some questions, but I'm curious to know, have you been working with companies that are very interested in your aviation fuel?
We are currently we are in early talks with a very large logistics that is wanting to utilize.
Nice, man. So now, in that hemp-based space, like, how do you ensure quality and safety standards?
Well, we have a number of programs in place for quality and safety. For one, we utilize Internet of Things sensors. We also utilize blockchain technology for smart contracts
Mm,
uh, and making sure that, especially when it comes to carbon, capturing carbon credits, tracking that through the full supply chain. Um, and then we also have a very strict protocols that we have with the farmers to follow. And also, we do constant training with the farmers
hmm
to ensure that not only that we are being clear in our communication, but also that they are educating us in ways that we can improve the farming process. So those are just a few of the many systems we have for quality control.
Okay. I've been hearing a lot about the carbon capture, man. Is it difficult to measure the carbon? So you're talking about the carbon credits?
Yes, it is difficult. However, uh, the methodologies that we've come across is, uh, for one, is having a model in place. So, as I mentioned before, one yield of hemp absorbs 1.25 metric tons of carbon dioxide.
Mm-hmm.
So by having that as a certified, let's say, rule of thumb, then we're able to calculate it on that level. We're also able to use different scientific tools um, to measure, do soil tests, and those soil tests will also give us the amount of carbon in that region.
Oh wow, man. Okay. So, I mean, I like how your project kind of takes into, just takes into account all the things that are needed, um, especially in regards to as we move into this carbon capture and decarbonization space. Something that's really big here, I think, is natural gas. You're just here in Louisiana. That's right. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So you have a hemp derived. I'm looking at RNG. How does I mean renewable um, natural gas? How does that compare with traditional natural gas?
Essentially, it's a direct replacement,
Okay.
so it's able to travel on pipeline.
Okay. So, so you're actually working with the infrastructure. Because we're all hearing about the infrastructure that's in place. Why Louisiana kind of has an advantage at this moment based on our pipeline system. So your your product can actually run through the existing pipelines.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So um, now I'm kind of down to the hemp assisted carbon capture. I think that's what we was kind of talking about when you said the hemp kind of captures the carbon itself. How's that how does that carbon capture and storage works and its a potential impact on mitigating climate change?
Yeah. So with hemp, in the process of the first 90 days, the carbon is stored in the stalk and in the roots.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we process it into a couple of products, but one, biochar.
Mm-hmm.
Biochar has carbon in it, and also into the hemp bricks. And essentially, we're able to make hempcrete hemp bricks by utilizing the on and water, storing the carbon in the water as a final product that can be used for building materials. And with those two products, we're able to not only guarantee that carbon is sequestered and stored, but more so, we're able to guarantee long-term storage.
Wow, man. Okay, hmm. so so with your how does how does it and you have to I'm your topic is something that even when I listen to you on your podcast, I still have to try to catch up. So I thank you for being patient. So tell me now, because we've been hearing a lot about green hydrogen as well. Can green hydrogen come from hemp biomass?
Yes, so with our process, as mentioning with gasification of the biomass,
Mm-hmm.
once it becomes a syngas, it has different compounds such as hydrogen and methane. And
Okay.
so during that cleaning process of the syngas, we're able to extract the hydrogen, and therefore it's green hydrogen.
Okay. How do you dispose of the methane? Just curious.
Well, the methane is actually what we upgrade into renewable natural gas.
So you're using all of it.
We use all of it.
That's, okay. Man, so how many byproducts through your process? I mean, and I'm looking at your list of things that you work. How many byproducts do you actually have? You mentioned the biochar. Um, how many byproducts do you have coming off the hemp, even in the process of you making fuel?
So with the fuel products, we have renewable diesel, sustainable aviation fuel. We have green hydrogen, renewable natural gas, and then the hemp bricks for starting off. We're looking at additional products that are R&D, but we'll release those when time comes.
And I'm asking them because some of the most successful products I've seen, obviously, your process is going to produce multiple lines of income, or multiple streams of revenue. Maybe a better way for me to say it, based on all the different spaces you can actually move your byproducts off of him.
That's correct.
Okay. Now that sounds like something the investors should have been are happy to hear about.
Yeah, the investment thing, it's a funny conversation. Everyone's excited, but
Uh-huh.
uh, you're not excited until the funds arrive in your account. So
I've heard it before, man. If you're excited, write the check, right? Write the check. Okay. So, um, what are some of the challenges or limitations you've encountered developing your hemp-based energy solutions, um, and how have you had to address them?
I would say the biggest challenge has been the stigma of hemp coming from the cannabis plant and uh, the history behind it, the politics, the capitalism behind it, all of it. It was a very big struggle for us, especially starting off when it came to banking relationships, because when it was legalized in 2018, many of the banks, credit unions, they were just warming up to the idea. Um, they didn't really have a system in place
Mm-hmm.
to handle money in the cannabis business yet. So that has been the biggest struggle. And so one way that we have found to overcome that struggle are hosting monthly webinars and also our newsletter, Clean Energy from Hemp and AI. So
And I want to encourage anybody, man, if you're, especially if you're on LinkedIn, check out Cultivate Hemp Solutions. Um, I would say a podcast, and I feel like it's about 30 minutes you're doing it. What do you call your? Is it more your presentations, or tell me how would you phrase your? I think the classes. How would you phrase your presentations on LinkedIn?
yeah, we call them webinars, but
Okay.
I'll call them more so virtual lectures, I guess.
Yes.
Really just going through the process of each product that we have. So
Yeah.
we usually like to tailor it per product, or we'll say, for example, the next one we'll do will most likely be on sustainable aviation fuel again, but we'll focus on how we process to make sustainable aviation fuel, how it affects the airlines, the logistics companies, and all the way down to the farmers.
How do you envision the future adoption and integration of the hemp derived fuels?
Honestly, I envision it where, you know, today most policy economics have been investing towards electric vehicles. And the truth is that electric vehicles are expensive. And there's a lot of politics around it, um, to the raw materials that are used to get batteries. Uh, it displaces people. It is a whole supply chain horror story. And what we're providing are farmers coming together and growing our fuel, you know. And what that does is it saves us money on logistics, save us money on getting resources outside of our country and where we're consuming fuel.
Mhm.
But I envision it that people still go into the pump and gassing up their car just as they always been, nothing changes. Except now you're helping the environment with our fuel.
Okay. Nikki says we have a question in the chat. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna definitely have her post it up, and then we're gonna kind of mix it into our thing. What's it? Can you read that?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it
So
require? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So does it require less water to grow hemp?
Mm.
So with hemp compared to hemp fiber compared to hemp grain, hemp fiber is less water. It depends on all crops are different. So
So when it comes to like Louisiana soil, I mean, obviously, we always I think we pretty much can grow anything down here. Um, Being able to, invest more in growing hemp, um, is it something that you think that can actually probably help our farmers, help um, our land, like rotating crops? Can it help support our land, the property? I mean, yeah, can it help support the farmers in regards to how they're in regards to their crops?
yeah, absolutely. One of the ways that it helps other crops, many of our farmers they utilize hemp as a rotational crop.
Okay.
So, especially in Louisiana, they grow for rice. So they'll be able to rotate hemp in, and what happens is that hemp actually adds nutrients to the soil,
Okay.
and with that process, uh, many crops yield increases from that. So it they all work together.
So now we're talking about, our, like you said, the stigma attached to hemp based on how we see it in the U.S. When you're looking across at international markets, I mean, how do you, is it different? How do you see it? How you see it kind of panning out over there? Are they more advanced with the hemp than we are?
I would say different regions and countries have their expertise.
Hmm.
So I would say from a textiles perspective, I think India has some of the best products.
Hmm.
I would say from food, hemp seed, hemp oil perspective, I think Canada has the best products.
Okay.
Um, I would say from a flower perspective, United States has a better product.
Okay. Is anybody successfully doing anything with hemp fuel nationally right now?
No, not
Okay.
international.
Okay.
Now there are startups that we have found that are working with hemp fuel, but no one has, from our knowledge, commercially tested um, like we have.
Okay. Now, have you formed any partnerships or collaborations with the local Louisiana farmers?
Yes,
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
yes. So we have a co-op program with Louisiana farmers in which farmers can sign up, which they have a minimum 4 acres of land. And
Hmm.
so with the co-op, essentially, we provide the seed for the farmers, and
Okay.
also we essentially teach them how to grow hemp. They
Hmm.
use their own equipment, and then they grow it for 90 days. We pay them 50% upfront, and then
Hmm.
50% once they grow and harvest it, and then
Hmm.
at weigh-in. And so after they weigh it, we use a third party, a logistics company, to take it to our refinery and process.
So, and just I guess another farmer's question: if we're, let's say hypothetically speaking, we're all in on hemp, how is it? How does that change, or how does that impact our farmers?
Well, for one, it adds additional revenue stream for farmers.
Okay. And when you say, I mean, you say revenue. I mean, is it? And I guess I'm trying to understand. Is it one of those things where hemp becomes like the thing they use to rotate the crops and to, just make an extra stream, or is it some that if they're all in on just, hey, I'm gonna do the hemp, is it something that they can make a, a decent living off of as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Now, how you when you say raise awareness? How do you plan to like? And I think you said your newsletter and also your newsletter and your webinars. Were there any other ways that you can educate or raise awareness around the benefits and potential of hemp energy?
Really, partnerships. We're looking to partner with our customers. We have some large names that
Hmm.
are household names in the pipeline, and so we believe that those partnerships will bring even more awareness.
So, just for the general public, man, like, what is something that you think that we talked about the stigma a little bit? What's something that the general public should know about hemp, or some of the things that I mean, obviously, we know that there are misunderstandings around hemp. What's some of the things that they should know about hemp that is not being told to them right now?
That hemp is great for the environment. Farmers love it, and it allows us cost competitive with fossil fuel.
And for there's obviously if we're growing it, there's less travel.
Absolutely.
So are you we because we have other farmers who work with hemp as well. I think they were actually having stuff brought in. Were you able to work with farmers who are already the farmers you were working with were already here and already growing it, or it was you were able to get folks involved and they decide that they want to grow it?
A combination of both,
Okay.
but oftentimes we found that many farmers have already uh, tested it on their own. They
Hmm.
have utilized 1 to 4 acres, and because honestly, many parts of the country, like in Texas, Oklahoma, and even some parts of Louisiana, it grows naturally like a weed. So farmers
Okay.
are already very familiar with it, and what oftentimes what people don't know is that hemp used to be a major crop here in the United States
Okay.
prior to 1937, and during World War II, it was actually used for uniforms, rope, and many other materials. In fact, farmers used to pay taxes with hemp. Um,
Okay.
so hemp has already been commercially scaled historically. It's just that politics made it illegal, and so people forgot about it historically. So we are trying our best to educate and bring it up to date.
So we talk about politics. I'm going to say regulatory and policy. How does regulatory how would changing regulatory and policy? What are some of the changes that you feel like could happen with regulatory and policy that would kind of help grow this industry and grow the opportunity?
Well, on the energy side, the Inflation Reduction Act that was recently passed has been huge for us as a business because we have been able to essentially utilize government funding to help potentially build the hemp industry via the clean energy
Mhm.
need. So that has been a major policy. Of course, hemp being legalized in 2018 helped us start off as well. So those policies are major, and what it does is that it allows the public to see that okay, this is serious, and that not only do startups can utilize it for 50,000 byproducts, but the country, the governments around the world are behind it.
So hemp is kind of like our present day peanut was to George Washington Carver.
It's interesting you brought him up, is because George Washington Carver is who helped educate Henry Ford on hemp as biofuel, hemp plastic, and whatnot. In fact, at Tuskegee University right now, there's a museum in George Washington Carver's name in which Henry Ford donated because of all of
Oh, wow.
the research that he brought to it. And so many of the many characteristics of the peanut are very similar to hemp, in which he was able to increase yield and able to convert to biofuels and plastics. So George Washington Carver is a major figure in the hemp industry.
Okay. So is the texture of the hull of the peanut a lot like the texture of hemp?
It's more so process extracting oil from
Okay.
and the hemp seed. Once it becomes oil, you're able to produce fuels and other products.
So how do we ensure ethical sourcing? I feel like you kind of answered it. I just haven't asked a direct question, but how would you, how do you think we ensure sustainability in an ethical sourcing of our hemp biomass?
Well, with us, we have a completely vertically integrated supply chain. So
Okay.
by working with the farmers directly and utilizing technology to track via quality control, we're able to ensure that.
It seems like there will be a lot of opportunity with USDA as well. Have they have you had the opportunity to work with any of their programs?
We're in the process of applying to a few programs.
Nice, 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 nice. Okay. So now, how do you see the hemp industry involving, in context with the renewable energy and sustainable solutions? How do you see it kind of evolving its way through as we move towards a more sustainable future?
Well, I see it that in 3 to 4 years, sustainable aviation fuel is one of the larger markets of the fuel industry. Lower hanging fruits, the airlines want larger agreements, and the logistics companies. The renewable diesel, we feel like, can be out the door right now. The issue is that many of the trucking companies, most trucking companies, they own less than 10 vehicles per fleet. So we focus on a wholesale fuel distributors,
Hmm.
and that allows us to be able to uh, spread renewable diesel and other biofuel products faster, and therefore help decarbonize the greater supply chain.
So you see like the diesel gas stations kind of being like some of our gas stations now, they would have like the regular selection, the 87, whatever, and then um, 87, I think 87, 89, like 92, 93. And then you will have something like the flex fuel, 85%, something like that. Do you see them kind of um, bringing in the renewable energy as they kind of use both or transition through these new, the old system as well? Or is it something that, oh, can a truck go from regular diesel to renewable energy to renewable diesel, no problem? Or hemp-based diesel?
Honestly, the great thing about our product is they won't even notice it.
Oh
It'll be
wow!
up.
So
That is
it wouldn't even impact, it wouldn't impact the vehicle.
none at all.
Oh wow. Okay. So can you give me some success stories, man, or case studies where your hemp based solutions have been implemented effectively? I know you was out in Lake Charles and you had a chance to work with a refinery out there. But is there any space where you think you placed your product right now that you're starting to see some success?
Yeah, right now the Lake Charles milestone was the major milestone. We were able to get it tested by MSpec Labs. So
Hmm.
we're the first commercially tested in the world. And so essentially, our main goal since then has been to get commitments from customers and essentially raising capital. So
You say again, you're the first hemp tested. Say it again for me.
our fuel is the first ASTM tested for hemp fuel in the world. Of course, that we know of.
Hey man,
We know of.
if we don't know, then we're gonna roll with what we know, okay?
Right.
And it's it's this moment, man. I think that I said trailblazer earlier. Um, is these things right here, is those little nuances, man. Being pushing the envelope and and becoming the first tested fuel. And I tell people about you all the time because it's kind of exciting for me. I said, we got a brother trying to open up a whole refinery, man. And I don't know if people realize how big and how cutting edge, how cutting edge that is, man. So I mean, kudos to Cultiv8 and Hemp Solutions for just challenging, just challenging the norm, man, and say, hey, I think we can do something different. Like, do you ever get a chance to enjoy the fact, or really embrace the fact that you are the trailblazing and really doing things that just haven't been done before?
Well, I just try because we have a whole lot of work. But I am proud of our team. We've come quite a long way. Um, we have done a whole lot more than what many people would have thought we made it, and so we're excited about the future, and we're confident that we can provide solutions for Louisiana and the greater Gulf.
So, how do you measure and communicate like environmental impact and benefits the hemp based energy to the stakeholders and to the public?
There's many KPIs, and it really depends on what KPIs are most important to people. A lot of people like to think in terms of how many trees are saved or how much carbon dioxide is absorbed and stored. What we'd like to also point is that there are a lot of companies out there now that are making renewable fuels.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are making it from old grease from restaurants. Some are making power to liquid utilizing electrolyzers, solar panels, and whatnot. But with our fuel, our highest priority are the farmers. And what we're doing is not only helping the farmers, but cleaning the soil to help with our food production and helps with our energy security. So it's many ecosystems that are involved that are collaborating. And so we're able to do it affordably so that people are, able to help the environment without buying a brand new vehicle. So
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. So, man, so with the journey so far, and it was told me you had a chance to meet some folks out at Tulane Innovation Institute, and also from Boot 64 as well. I don't want to go into a lot of detail. I just want to kind of talk about how those guys have just maybe encouraged or supported, or they're part of our ecosystem. And I'm just want to know, like, how has it been working with those organizations?
so far so good. We're in early stages speaking to them.
Mm-hmm.
They feel they are very knowledgeable of the industry. They have acknowledged that that Louisiana is one of the central locations for clean energy because of the infrastructure, and
Mm-hmm.
it's quite refreshing to speak to capital groups are from the region because they understand the infrastructure, the demand, how much that the Texas, Louisiana, that region provides and for the world. So it just allows and it makes the conversation just go a lot more smoother. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. I think that it's funny. I, when you listen to your project in the different phases, or like even with like you said, with the webinars, it sounds so. It sounds like I say disconnected because I'm just not as knowledgeable. I'm being completely honest, guys. Like it's hard for me to keep up with this brother right here. I mean, it's just so much. But I do like the webinars. But now that I'm listening to it, man, I'm kind of hearing like that comprehensive vision of being able to create an ecosystem where not only um, where we have these folks that are buying the fuel, but it's also our local farmers who may have been, struggling in the past as well. They're having there's a financial benefit for them, an opportunity for them, and the growing of the hemp is actually going to be healthy for the environment and also healthy for the soil as well. And by being able to champion something like this, man, you may be opening the door for textile. You may be opening the door for other founders. Like I said, we have a founder who has the hemp insulation. So I really do believe just by you being able to kind of destigmatize all these different things, and being able to um, offer more education, the collaboration with the farmers. I'm hoping that just opens up more doors for more people. I want to check with Nikki to see if we have any questions in the chat real quick, or if there's anyone that has any questions. Okay. So, Steve, I wanted, if you had kind of the opportunity to kind of talk to our policymakers and uh, kind of give them, based on everything that you experienced to this point, and just kind of give them kind of some insight on your experience and what you've had going on, and the way you feel like, based on what you told me, where you say hemp, the benefits that hemp has and can provide for us. What are some of the things that you want our policymakers to know?
Yes, so there was a recent article or a white paper that was written about greenwashing with
Okay.
sustainable aviation fuel. And
Can you help me with greenwashing really quickly?
yes, so the term greenwashing is essentially a high emitting company that burns a whole bunch of fuel,
Okay.
and they are buying credits to cover up or to make their burning fuel actions okay,
Okay.
as opposed to utilizing clean fuel for their assets.
Mm-hmm.
So greenwashing in this article essentially is saying that utilizing corn as a feedstock for sustainable aviation fuel is not a solution. And I agree with them, but the issue is that they assume that we have found there's no other feedstock in the world that can provide a solution for
Okay.
sustainable aviation fuel. And so with hemp is that it's an absolute replacement because for one, it there's no issues with land use change
Mm-hmm.
that corn, and also that if policy were to have farmers convert 33% of their arable land, we'll be able to meet that 35 billion gallon uh, mark that the Biden administration has set. And I believe they set it for 2050. But that from our
Just repeat that point again, because I like.
yeah so
Just repeat that. Mm-hmm.
the Biden administration has set a goal of being able to produce 35 billion gallons a year of sustainable aviation fuel to help decarbonize the aviation industry. And so, from our calculations, by utilizing hemp, if they were to create a policy that farmers were to allocate 33% of their land, of all arable land here in the U.S., we'll be able to meet that 35 billion gallon goal.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So it's definitely attainable.
Absolutely.
Now, outside Louisiana, are there other hemp farmers that kind of or farmers that are kind of on the same page with some of the things that you're trying to get our farmers on the same page with?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
There's honestly not a state in the U.S. where farmers are not interested in hemp. Some of the
Okay.
biggest markets are California, Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Montana. Pretty much everywhere that grows corn, wheat, rice, they are interested in growing hemp.
Wow. And like you said, we're not doing something new. We're actually going back to something that was already used in the past, something that we've had success with in the past. We just have to destigmatize a little bit more, educate a little bit more, and just really think about all those, like you said, those byproducts that come off of the hemp. It's something that can help us meet our new energy goals, and also something that can help us decarbonize as well. Now, I want to thank you so much, brother. Is there anything that you want to tell our audience or anything? When's your next webinar?
We should have one next month.
Okay.
We'll make an announcement on LinkedIn, so we'll let you know.
Most definitely. And then what we'll do also is can we get our at least pub that next webinar in our newsletter as well.
Okay. I
Cool, man.
appreciate it.
Nah, man, we appreciate you, bro. We appreciate you as a trailblazer. Thank you for being in our first cohort. Um, Again, I'm um, constantly bragging on you, and we'll constantly be looking for opportunities and places where we can hopefully get more interest and get more and find more investors too,
Absolutely, especially on the investors part.
especially on the investments part, man. All right, man. Thank you so much, Steve. Oh, one last check. Do we have anything in the chat? Any questions? All right, man. Thank you guys so much for showing up, man. We really do appreciate Steven Fance. We appreciate you guys. Continuing to support the show, and make sure you get a chance to check out Stephen Fance's webinars that are currently running on LinkedIn, and check out his LinkedIn page because they're there as well. Take care of yourselves, man. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.